what fools we were. In pride we built Karak 8 peaks, sure of our mastery of stone and the dark beneath the world. Yet even as we built the city, the seeds of its doom were planted.
Something stirs in the World's Edge Mountains.
Karak 8 Peaks was one of the greatest kingdoms ever created by the Dwarves during their Golden Age, rivaling even the capital city of Karaz-A-Karak in terms of sheer power, wealth and beauty. For many generations, the city endured throughout the ages, and no army in the surface world has ever been able to penetrate the mighty peaks that are the domains of this city. Eventually, due to the dark machinations of the Dark Elves and the foolish actions of the young Phoenix King, the Dwarves were involved in the War of Vengeance, a bloody conflict between the Dwarves and the High Elves. We will explore more of this war in another episode, but in short, it took an untold number of lives before the death of the High Elves' Phoenix King marked the end of the grueling fighting. The Elves retreated back to their home island of Ulthuan, and the Dwarves retreated back to the mountains, both races weary of a war that costed them greatly. Not long after their hard-won victory over the High Elves, volcanic activities began to roar to life in the east, and the mountains began to buckle as an unprecedented cataclysm shook the world. Volcanoes belched ash and rock, covering the lands in a blanket of destruction and ruins across the entire mountain range. Countless mines collapsed to earthquakes. All holds were damaged, and the underway was partially ruined, blocked with rubble, floodwaters or magma. The dwarves hid in their homes, weathering through this thunderous storm, unaware of the true danger that was about to come. With a sudden shake-up of gigantic proportions, orcs and goblins began to migrate in the hundreds of thousands westward until finally they reached the borders of the mountains, the home of the dwarves. The Goblin Wars erupted and plunged the Dwarf Kingdom into chaos. Upon sensing weakness, armies hungry for plunder appeared like wolves at the door, and the many invasions that followed triggered a series of battles that began even before the last of the aftershocks had finished. Enemies infiltrated through the unguarded tunnels and overwhelmed outposts with surprise attacks. But it was not just the greenskins that came to wreak havoc amongst the dwarves. The sinister Skaven erupted from the lower depths and began to systematically attack and occupy numerous mining networks and minor holds all around the mountain range. It soon became apparent that the Skaven also intended to claim Karak 8 Peaks for themselves. A new era descended upon the dwarves of the World's Edge Mountains, threatening their very existence. Contact between strongholds was lost, and far-flung mineworks and outposts were truly on their own. The dwarf realm was reduced to isolated islands, each surrounded by a sea of foes, greenskins coming from the valley and into the mountains, and the Skaven rising from the darkness below. Everyday life quickly became a battle for survival. this harsh new reality changed the nature of the dwarf realm forever.
We were weary of war when the Black Mountains belched forth their cloud of ash. The sky was overcast, and the sun hid its face. Our crops died. Our people returned to the safety of their cities. And from the heart of our realm, from the place we imagined ourselves the strongest, our foes burst forth. From tunnels far below any we had dug, our enemies struck into the core of the fortress. Through the mines that had been the source of our wealth poured armies of goblins and rat-like Skaven, and things far, far worse.
Despite the innumerable attacks, Karak-8 held firm. However, for no army could ever fight past the mighty defences the dwarves had erected on the surface of their realm. Although forced to relinquish many settlements and minor strongholds, no dwarf in their right mind would ever imagine abandoning the glorious kingdom of Karak-8. By the time a Skaven strike force was sent towards Karak-8 to mine several tunnels for their armies to move through, the Rat Men found that the dwarves had changed their style of underground warfare to counter their efforts. Soon, invasions that were sent against the dwarves were faced with sturdy resistance, as the tunnels and hallways were littered with the death traps and matchless rune-forged arms and armour. The dwarfs of Karak-8 began to use the heavily armoured units of Ironbreakers to patrol and guard the narrow passages beneath the hold. Where the Skaven numbers became irrelevant, their sturdy compact physique, thick armour and determined tenacity made them nearly impossible to shift out of a narrow confine. Those Skaven forces that managed to bypass these patrols and tunnel their way deeper into enemy lines were soon faced with firing lines of handgunners and cannon batteries. As the dwarfs' artillery crews lit the fuses of their war machines and the air was filled with the thunder of their weapons, mowing down Skaven with merciless fire. The tunnels echoed with the sound of slaughter and the defiant war chant of the dwarfs. Unable to overcome such formidable defences, the Warlord clans sought the guidance of the Council of 13 to aid in their efforts. The planning took nearly 10 generations before completion, but it guaranteed success and full control of the kingdom. The first step in the plan was to convince the local greenskin tribes to stop fighting each other long enough for them to assault the dwarves on the surface of the upper levels. The Skaven timed their attacks to coincide with the above ground assaults by Orcs and Goblins. Beset from above and below, the dwarfs began to lose ground. The second step involves slowly poisoning the wells and the water deposits with toxic warpstone fragments. Over the following months, the dwarfs began to grow weakened by the toxins, their bodies straining to fight against the corruption within them. In the next step, the clans would purchase giant rats from Clan Moulder to launch surprise attacks against the now weakened dwarves. But it would be the diabolical weaponry that made the decisive difference in the war. The powerful but portable warp-fire thrower was capable of melting and punching through the reinforced dwarf shield walls that formed in front of the ratmen. The dwarfs lost mine after mine, hold after hold, but still they were determined to hold out as long as they possibly could. The Skaven also deployed the poison wind globe, an orb of glass that contained a deadly gas that proved highly lethal to all that breathed it. Neither armour nor stout determination could combat the toxic fumes, and soon many dwarves, mighty warriors and unrivalled artisans alike died agonising deaths in the pitch blackness beneath the mountains. After well over a century and a half of bitter and constant warfare, King Lun ordered his followers to seal away the sacred tombs and whatever treasures they could not carry and fight their way out. He vowed, one day, to return. The Skaven clans finally took the kingdom and renamed it the City of Pillars. Karak 8 Peaks is built in a natural amphitheatre ringed by 8 snow-covered peaks. The city above ground lay in ruins, swarming with greenskins that were able to breach the defences when the dwarves departed. They claimed the upper levels of the city for themselves, while Skaven and nameless monsters roamed the network of dark halls, mines and tombs below. In places far from the light of day, the Skaven now battled the Orcs and Goblins that they themselves first coerced into attacking. They pit their might and guile against each other in a savage series of battles for domination of the former Dwarfhold. Scarsnik is the leader of the Night Goblins of the Crooked Moon tribe and the most feared goblin of Karak 8 Peaks. He is a mastermind when it comes to laying complex ambushes and setting elaborate traps. It is said that the abominable deeds done by Scarsnik have gained their own chapter in the Book of Grudges of the Dwarfs. Although a fierce fighter himself, what really makes Scarsnik formidable is his ever-present pet, the giant cave squid named Gobbler, a beast grown huge by a steady diet of dwarfs and Skaven. Patience, Gobbler! Scarsnik has risen to command in the midst of the bitter and ongoing three-way battle between the greenskins, dwarfs and Skaven. In a climactic battle in the ceremonial halls of the West Quarter between the Skavens and the Greenskins, Clan Moors collapsed the vaulted roof, sealing out the Greenskins from the desirable levels.
Your council will be pleased!
Shortly after, the Council of 13 approved Clan Moors to claim the City of Pillars as their stronghold. Queek Headtaker, warlord of Clan Wars, has vowed to one day place the head of Scarsnik on his trophy rack.
Get ready, boys!
The once great kingdom of the Bearded Ones is now the fortress lair of his powerful clan, always expanding and digging new tunnels and passages to attack their foes from the most unexpected of places.
Get them! Get them now! Look how they scurry to us on such little legs, racing to fight. We will give them battle. Yes. No other rat must slay more than Mimi. Any who attempt to outkill Mimi will pay.
Sacrifice your life now!
Get it! If I see any of you running the wrong way. Well, Goblin is hungry. He's always hungry.
No! Not try hard enough!
Since its fall, descendants of King Lun, the last king to rule Karak 8 Peaks, have tried to reclaim the hold, each time being repulsed with terrific losses. The most recent attempt was made by Belegar Ironhammer, direct descendant of Lun Ironhammer, and known by his followers as the true rightful king of Karak 8 Peaks. Belegar and his followers, numbering around 500 dwarf warriors, broke through the outer defences and sought their way into their ancient home. Full intent on recovering their rightful kingdom, slowly they found and sealed off the tunnels the Goblins and Skaven had used to breach the city. Belegar and his men managed to establish a solid foothold, largely confined to the surface and upper levels of the mountain, and fortified it against the inevitable counterattacks that surely would come. As expected, night goblins assailed them in overwhelming tides, many thousands of times their number.
The grudge be settled. Let vengeance begin! Roar!
The dwarfs held strong, with the power of war engines and the wall of steel that no foe could pass. Despite being under near continuous siege, Belegar and his dwarfs stand firm against the waves of attackers that seek to destroy their place amongst the ruins. Scarsnik called off the ineffective attacks after a few days. Greenskin losses were in the tens of thousands, but Scarsnik knew he could afford to take such casualties daily if need be. The assault was merely a probe, and he now guessed what the dwarfs were up to. So the shrewd night goblin leader began to plot a more devious attack. So it goes in Karak 8 Peaks. Below the mountain ranges of the World's Edge Mountains rages a bloody war of attrition between the three races, inch by inch, tunnel by tunnel. Each step forward is paid in blood. So the battle grinds on and on in a permanent state of siege. Not a day goes by in Karak 8 Peaks without some plot, probing raid, ambush, assassination or full-scale assault. Greenskins, Skaven and Dwarfs fight incessantly, and with each new tunnel invasion or bitterly contested counterattack, the underground warfare evolves.
The lost vault of Angund is within reach. Are we going to let these trespassers get away with their sneaky shenanigans? Do we let them steal the treasure and valuables which belong to the Angron clan by right? No! We do not!
The days of our glory are behind us. Once we created all this. Now, we huddle in a few shrunken cities and wait for the end of the world. The day of the dwarf has gone, never to return. We crawl like maggots through the work of elder days, and the glory of what once was ours mocks us today.
Thank you for watching. On this channel, we're putting together fan-made cinematic episodes featuring historical and fantasy battles based on the settings from the Total War series and, of course, good old World of Warhammer. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and hit the notification button to be the first to watch the next battle.